We are opening the Finance and Audit Committee meeting of October 13th at 6:02 p.m. I'll do the roll call. Mayor Lara is absent. Mayor Pro Tem White.
Here.
Treasurer Carroll here. Chair Diana Harris. Absent. She did call me and tell me she would be late. Vice Chair Elaine Morgan. Absent. Recording Secretary Jennifer Burnett.
Here.
Member Ray Santos.
Here.
Member John Hollowell.
Here.
Member Sean Belinget.
Absent.
Absent. Alternate Member Beneke.
Here.
Do we have enough members for a quorum?
Yes, we do. We have 5 regulars.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any actions on any other excused absences? I do know that Diana will show up as soon as she can, but that she's a little bit late. And I think Elaine may have communicated with her, so we may have an update on that. The Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Beneke, would you lead us?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You think maybe they're locked down? Oh, no. I was thinking maybe they were locked down.
Public comment period will be opened at 6:05. Any one person may address the committee on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back table, and it will be given to the recording secretary. There is a 3-minute limit on public comments, 3-minute time limit. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the committee from discussing or taking actions brought up by your concerns. Do we have any public comments?
No?
I close the public comment period at 6:06 p.m. Item 2 is adoption of minutes. Item A is the August 1st, 2016 minutes, and I will refer to the recording secretary. There were some comments that were brought up to just make sure that the minutes were in order. Do you want to update us on whether there was any material changes?
We did have a change for public comment, so now we state the person and the hyperlink to YouTube. So there is no essay or statement or caption. It's just the link.
So it's a just change in format going forward.
That was what we agreed to at the last meeting, so I went ahead and just changed it on the August 1st and move forward. That's how we're listing it unless we make another change.
That is a link to that specific meeting, correct?
It should be, yes.
Okay.
I haven't verified that, though.
Okay.
Okay. Adoption of minutes for September 19th, 2016. These I thought had been posted. It was actually my error. I didn't realize that I needed to forward them to staff, so I was the one that slowed that one down. And I printed them out and put them at the back of the room. They're approximately 3 pages long, with the last page being very brief, mostly just signature. So I don't know if you've had time to review that or not, but it's very short. And if no one has any concerns, I would like to recommend adoption of both of them.
Does anyone need more time to look them over?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any no's? Thank you. The next item is the treasurer's report. It's a verbal report. Wilmington Trust is hung up in legal. We don't have any movement on that. It seems to be a real legal lockhold for the moment, and we should be able to hopefully get an update at next month's meeting, because it's been about a month and a half that it's been in legal now. So I'd like to see that change as soon as we can find out from legal that it's moved to the next page.
It's okay. It's okay. I was thinking to check the door, if there was something back there. Open the door. It's okay.
I think she tripped. That's a big step over
That
there.
step is very difficult to see.
Yeah, it is. It's high.
Is it, whose legal is it stuck to? Our. Is there a specific reason? Is that privileged?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
We
good.
can talk to you afterwards.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, I can hear later.
Yeah.
I'm here.
The next item is the discussion of future CFD presentation for committee. We were to discuss the CFDs and get the experts in for this meeting. It was designed to educate the Finance and Audit Committee meeting, because they have not had access to any of the experts that we have hired for the city. And we needed to take it off this agenda because there were some concerns from council. And so we need to discuss the next date potentially for the presentation, and what we want the format to be. So with that, I'd like to open it up.
Yeah, I'd like to go first, because I asked for this to be put here. The purpose of this committee and the other committee that we set up was so that we would do work that council didn't have to do, number one. Number two, that we would be a group of citizens, not just elected officials, that would be able to communicate to anyone out in the public what's going on when someone says, well, you know, what is the finance committee doing? What are your finances like? Issues like that. And the whole purpose of when we brought, my opinion and what I was going for when we brought this up originally, to have a workshop here, was that we would do it just, watch your step, we would do it just for the finance committee. And then the purpose of the finance committee doing this, you think your daughter was watching?
No, I thought I heard someone pulling on the door out there, so I thought they were locked out there, but
So the idea that I thought came away with our last meeting was that we would get ourselves educated, so that we had 9 more people in the community educated. And then we could then make a informed recommendation to the council on how to educate the rest of the community. And we talked about doing something here, bring in the bond experts, listen and talk to them, and get all of our questions answered. And then we could hold a larger workshop for the entire community, similar to the one we did in January or February earlier this year. And then when it was brought up in council, just sort of on a report that this is what we're trying to accomplish, it sort of got hijacked by council. Council said, well, wait a second, you know, we want to be there too. And my argument is, as a council member, I can pick up the phone and call any one of these bond experts and have a meeting with them and get my questions answered. And then I also tried to remind everyone what happened at the workout plan workshop. And at the workout plan workshop, it was supposed to be joint between the finance, economic council, and everyone in finance showed up. And council was there. And it just becomes, when you now have 14, 20 elected, or 20 people with the ability to ask questions, and then you have the community making their public comments, that we then get really bogged down and we really don't get to the nitty-gritty that we want. The plan, I thought, moving out of the last meeting, was that we weren't going to be secretive about it. We were going to make it part of our regular meetings, and hold it here, and if people want to come and talk about it and give us input, we weren't going to stop that. But the idea was not to involve council at this point, but be able to make a recommendation to council. So in council, it was heading towards, let's pick a date for a joint meeting between council and finance. And I said, wait a second, maybe we should go back to the finance committee and get their input on whether, how we would like council to move forward. So that I wanted to start with that and open the discussion with that understanding, so you know why it's back here. Because we thought we had all settled this already, and we're going to have this meeting today.
Well, I agree with you. I bought into it based on what you just said. The purpose of the meeting that was supposed to happen today, I bought into that purpose. Because I think you're right. We're going to have a problem here, and it's going to be a real big problem pretty soon. The community's not going to stay quiet for too much longer, especially when they start receiving their tax bills, which I did this week. They're going up. The taxes are going up based on things that are happening with this plan. And we need to get a handle on. I need to know the whole problem. I need 101. I need a refresher course 101 on this. I know quite a bit about it, but it's bits and pieces. I need to see a comprehensive presentation. And I have quite a few questions. One of our subcommittees was given the charge is come back with a plan so that if the community wanted to start a process that would modify, change, whatever, that the council would review that and give their blessings, and therefore there would be a process in place so that if somebody from the community said, we want to get rid of this 2%, okay, here's what you need to do. Step A, step B, step C. Possibly get some signatures, make sure it's a joint community thing. Whatever the process is, we need to understand what a community can do. Is there anything a community can do? I think I was kind of bamboozled when I bought into my development. And of course, you could say, well, you didn't read the fine print, Mr. Beneke. I probably didn't read the fine print, and probably 90% of the people that bought in there didn't read the fine print. There probably was something in there that alluded to this. I didn't catch it at the time. I was under a different impression in terms of Melrose and what it's supposed to accomplish. But I'm with you. I would like this committee to become very informed on a one-on-one type of level so that we can begin the process of developing a plan so that we could present to the council could adopt, so the community can then approach the city and begin a process if they want to get rid of it or modify it or whatever. There would be a process in place. If you don't have that, you're going to have chaos, you're going to have misunderstanding, and you're going to have a lot of other negatives, I think. So that's where I'm coming from.
I want to say something, and I don't know how it fits in.
Just say it.
Okay, but, and I wanted to, I guess, get this off my chest. And it's the committee in general. And I have it wrote down, so I'm going to kind of read because I don't want to forget. Okay, and I've done this one before, and I gave the definition of the committee. The Finance and Audit Committee was formed under Beaumont City Council Ordinance Number 1062 and adding Chapter 2.35 to the Beaumont Municipal Code. The duties of the committee include advisory to the City Council, and we shall make recommendations regarding city investment policies and practices, long-term financial planning, and such other matters as the City Council may request from time to time. And this is a really vague sentence right there. It's just, I don't know. In the ordinance, it further explains the committee's purpose and intent as an advisory committee to the City Council and to work to promote enhanced fiscal responsibility, accountability, integrity, transparency, and to recommend fiscal and investment policies for the City Council's consideration. I think we were formed because of the 75 violations that hit the city. And within that, there was questions about an audit committee. Do the audit committee members have sufficient knowledge, experience, and time to serve effectively? Does a committee meet regularly to review the city's performance? Does the audit committee meet privately with the chief financial officer? These are just some of the questions, and we all know them because you guys have all read them. The city has made some important financial investment decisions in the past months, moving $5 million to the general fund, Potrero overpass, and the water treatment facility improvement. The committee was never involved in any of these, any discussions or anything in these important decisions. The CFD issue is overwhelming in its nature and existence and is a large problem for the city and the citizens. The committee was asked to participate with the council to untangle the special assessment. The committee asked for training on CFDs to get a better grip of the core of the special assessments in order to aid the city council. My main problem of this whole issue right now is that we're all expecting to see this training tonight. Tonight was changed without any notification to any of us. We had no idea we were going to be walking in without a CFD training tonight. That's not fair. Since this was changed up on us, I think that we should have all been notified. Oh, guess what, gang? You're not going to be doing the CFD. It's become an issue now, and we're going to have to figure out how you guys are going to get the training. That is my biggest issue in this whole realm of the picture of what's going on right now. The end.
I'd like to respond, but I want to see if anyone else had something to say first. I don't want to hijack this whole issue.
I think that she has brought up some points that are valid. I still feel that there's a lot of information out there that has not been gathered yet, so we can really sit down and discuss during and or following the training to explain what is going on with the CFDs. Back in January, we told the community that we would forthwith start working on trying to get answers to questions that were raised at those meetings. As you know, I don't attend every meeting, but I try to follow what's going on. I don't think we've answered maybe 5% of the questions that were raised then. And we're now trying to, as I said in our previous meeting, we're now trying to sit down and try and figure a way to educate the people. We don't have the answers to take and form the plan to educate. Yes, we can say, well, we want to meet on the first Wednesday of every month, or we want to go to the high school and we want to have a meeting with the public to explain what's going on. But until we have that information to dove into the presentation, we're still premature. I think that, yes, it would be good for us all to sit in on a presentation a little more in depth than what we've had in the past. But when I hear some of the comments that I hear coming out of the city council meetings, I think city council has to go through that same training. And I think there needs to be an avenue where we can have a meeting where we can get the people there as a training exercise, not forming policy or things like that. And that's what I was hoping that this meeting that we were going to have would be, is that we would learn more and more about the process, because there are people out in the community that I hear in our community that would like to explore the avenue of maybe refinancing and getting their bills a little bit less. But we've been told to this point that it may not be possible to refinance because of what's happened since the original bonds were issued. So I can understand your concerns. Thank you.
I take to heart that we were formed predominantly manned by citizens and not electeds to serve the community and the council. And in order to do that in any kind of a substantive way, we have to be knowledgeable. And if our only resource for being knowledgeable is exactly the same as the public, not that the public should have any less than anybody, which is why all these meetings are recorded, but we certainly do need to be able to ask questions on things we don't understand and get explanations. And I felt that the CFD presentation was the first opportunity for this oversight committee, or not oversight, recommendation committee, or whatever we phrase ourselves as, to get a forum where we could find out more information. Because the responsibility has been put on us to meet on a regular basis, to pay attention to what goes on in city council meetings, to understand the financial issues, to come prepared for the meetings, to do the right thing when we're here, to make sure that we understand what the issues are. So the responsibility has all been put there. However, the first time we reach out for a mechanism to train ourselves on something beyond the responsibility, where we actually may be able to perform at a level that I think everybody has already committed to, it becomes infused with other purposes that I feel that there has been an avenue for a year and a half, or longer. I take to heart what Mr. Beneke said, because Mr. Beneke remembers well that a lot of the CFD explanations were done by prior administration. So we also need to make sure that this committee has an understanding of what the answers have evolved to be and the explanations have evolved to be. Council has had a great deal of time with the experts. They have had them sometimes at closed session. They have had them reachable by phone. We were not excluding the council from sitting in the audience and learning. We just wanted it to be a session for this committee to actually be able to live up to some of its responsibility. And I've worked with enough teams where I know that when you bring in sort of the supervising group with the group that needs to really get their feet firmly planted, sometimes you defer questions, you defer time, you don't want to ask what seems like a kind of dumb question, what does CFD mean, or whatever it is that you might come up with. Once you make the group more elaborate and you infuse it with the electeds who we are also supposed to be serving, then it's a natural process that you would give some sort of deference to them. Allow them maybe to speak a little bit more longer than you do. Allow them to ask their questions first or whatever. So I think that it ends up tempering the purpose, and I don't think it necessarily tempers it in a good way. So I really believe that this committee, if you want to give it responsibility to actually do something and meet on a regular basis, I think we have a right to ask for what we need if you're going to give us the responsibility.
Anyone else? First of all, I would like to apologize. I agree with you that it wasn't fair to you guys to expect this meeting to be something that we knew on, when did we know? A couple meetings ago, right? That we knew was not going to be. My problem with what went down in council was it was part of a treasurer's report, what the finance committee was doing. I had no idea that it was going to become an issue that we would begin to discuss. That was not on the agenda, so we weren't allowed to discuss it. But it was headed towards, we'll hold it today and we'll bring everyone in. And I tried to remind people, we have two experiences where we've tried to do this. We had the CFD workshop where 600 plus people showed up at the school district, and 2.5 hours were listening to the public, and we had about an hour for council to ask really brief questions. It was not, in my mind, I think it was very productive because it was a perfect timing for the community to get, to let us as council know how angry they were. And that's what came out of that meeting, was how angry the community was that, that we had this. And I went through the same, I didn't read the fine print, but my wife read the fine print. So, and I even questioned our developer. Yeah, and I questioned our developer and said, we told you we didn't want Mello-Roos. They're not Mello-Roos, they're CFDs.
Mm-hmm.
And now we know the Mello-Roos law sets up the CFDs. So I remember the CFD workshop, and then I also remember the workout plan workshop that we had as a joint. And I argued then, I said, no, let's hold one for the Finance Committee, one for Economic Development, and then we could do a joint one for Council. But you guys are all right. The purpose of this committee is to advise and recommend to Council. And as Mrs. Carroll pointed out, doesn't stop council members from sitting in the audience, doesn't stop them from watching the video, and they can pick up the phone the next day and call these experts. But these experts that we're bringing in aren't doing it for free. We pay them by the hour. And if we're going to bring them in for a 2-hour, maybe 3-hour workshop, a number of them, I want to get some productivity out of it. And I didn't think once we had council involved, and then we were all limited to the number of questions we could ask and time frame, and people submitting written questions, which I'm okay. If someone wants to submit me 20 written questions, I will ask each one of those. But I just didn't think it was time to bring council in. And the way it was heading that night was this meeting was going to be council. And my argument was, wait a second, this was Finance Committee's idea. Let's go back to the Finance Committee, and then we can recommend council on what we think the workshop should be. So I'm hoping that out of this meeting comes a recommendation from Finance Committee to council. You can sit in the audience, you can watch the video, but we're going to have our debate or our discussion. And if council is not okay with that, then it would be my goal to end the discussion with council as far as doing a workshop. If council wants to do, bring in and have a workshop, we can do that. That's different. But the whole purpose, as you said, I have looked at CFDs extensively for several years, and I know a lot about them. But when I tell you guys, I told you this in the last meeting, when I tell you guys that this is this and this is this, I'm sitting there thinking in my back of my head, am I getting this right? Am I misleading you guys? Because you're going to go out in the community and say, well, we learned this, this, and this. Where'd you learn that from? Well, Lloyd told us. And I did not want that. So I wanted us to get it directly from those people. I do want to address Potrero and the other issues that have come up in front of council. I had no notice on Potrero. I had no idea it was coming to council until I got the agenda. And it was a very political evening, and it was a process that could not be slowed down. I tried my best. It could not be. It was just, we had 2 hours of developers coming in and telling us how wonderful it was, and it just moved forward like a train, and I could not stop it or slow it down. The $5 million one, we have a lot of discussions, and I can't say whether this was or was not part of our closed council discussions, but we have a lot of discussions that are heavily involved with attorneys. And this one was a very legal heavy issue, and it was something that we could not have really discussed. I would have argued against discussing it in Finance Committee, because if you read what you read, we didn't say, and actually I set up, if you go back and look at my campaign materials, I wanted a Finance Committee and audit. I didn't say audit, but I wanted a Community Finance Committee for a lot of what we're doing. It had nothing to do, I didn't even know the State Controller's Office would even be a term that anyone knew here. And so, the State Controller's Office was something that came after we had decided why to form the committee. But it's not for all financial issues. It's for issues, like you said, that was very vague. And we did that on purpose because we wanted council to be able to say to the Finance Committee, please run with this. And council did that with CFDs. Council said, let's send it to the Finance Committee. Let's let the Finance Committee work out a plan, evaluate what you were saying, look at the options, because we had people from different communities. And you guys do know this, every community and every CFD issue is different. In some communities, my community, we are not maxed out. And I don't want to spend too much time on that. In other communities, there's no room for them to do a refinancing. It was brought up, someone, I'm not sure who, I think it was Mr. Hallowell, about refinancing our CFDs. We can't refinance one that is maxed out. We could do one that has more room on it, but what our advisors have suggested to us, and this was not something that wasn't in open council, let's put a bunch of them together and see if there's a way we can do a financing together. And whether or not we can do that or not, I'm not saying we can or can't, and it's something that we need to talk about. But the whole reason we want to get on these CFDs is so when a community like Four Seasons or Stetson or Sundance comes to us and says, we want to reevaluate and renegotiate our financing, then we can say, as Mr. Beneke pointed out, well, here's the process. Let's first look at the numbers and see if yours is maxed out and whether we can do anything. Because all of these financial agreements are not between the city and the homeowners. They're between the bondholders and the homeowners. And so if the bondholders are not, if they're not in agreement, or we can't just pay them off, that's how you get around there being an agreement, is we refinance it and pay it off. So I think, the process was for us to be able to put together a process and recommend to council, hey, here's what we've learned. This is how we think you should educate the public. And this is a suggestion we have for a process when people in the public come to us and say, what can you do about my CFD? How can you lower my cost?
So, but my question is this, anytime that we run up something like this, we have to ask permission? Because that's pretty much what it is with the CFDs, we have to ask permission. We're entitled to be
No,
acknowledged.
we did not have to ask permission. We decided we were going to do it. Staff said it's okay. We'll bring in the experts. It was scheduled, ready to go.
But we got shut down.
Well, I helped to shut us down because I saw it was going in, it was another train on the way.
But yeah, it still goes back to my question. We're supposed to be acknowledged in this. So when we ask for knowledge, and it turns into a debate, what does that do for us?
I agree.
What does that do for us? We're not allowed to ask.
Well, unfortunately, Mike and I, the only two council members on this board, agreed 100% with you. And that's why we convinced the others to wait a second. We couldn't really even talk about it then. They wanted to put it on the agenda for the very next meeting, which wouldn't have given us time to meet. And so I said, no, I argued that the Finance Committee needed to address this. And I hope, coming out of this, and I think we can, we go back to council and say, look, this is what you told us we're supposed to do. We're going to hold the workshop. You're more than welcome to sit in the audience or watch on the video. But this is how we can get better educated as a group, is to do it on our own. And then the council can hold their workshop on, after the fact. After we recommend to them, yeah, workshop makes sense or not. And then council can say, well, Finance Committee, thanks for your recommendation, but we're going to do it our way anyways.
Then they're kind of just violating what the city violations.
Well, it does say advise and recommend. So it doesn't
Maybe
say
it's
what we advise
sufficient
and
knowledge,
recommend.
experience, and time to serve effectively. Do we have sufficient knowledge and experience?
No, we
Well,
don't.
we don't.
Right.
We don't. So for them to say, no, we want to do it this way when we're asking for knowledge so we can make decent, recommendations, and we're being shut down on this very first, very important issue, and we're shut down. Let me see. That's one of the problems that are we going to be faced with all the time.
Well, unless there's anyone else who wants to talk, I'm willing to make a motion at this point on how we move forward. But I don't want to cut anyone else off from conversation. So I move that we recommend to council that the Finance Committee holds the workshop as we had agreed to in our last Finance Committee meeting. And then we will come to council with recommendations on how to educate the public. That's what I move our recommendation to council be.
Second.
Yeah. Lane seconded.
Yeah.
So we got to take,
Call for the vote.
yeah, we need to call for a vote.
Just a quick question.
Discussion.
Did you feel the council kind of felt like they weren't given a recommendation? It was just part of a report that this was going to be happening?
This was just a update on what the
Maybe they
Finance Committee.
feel they should be receiving recommendations. I don't know. sometimes you get people with a
Well, and-
political hat on.
I watched it. My interpretation, just a citizen watching a video, is that it appeared to me that a few council members who are on other committees wanted their committees involved as well, and then also some in council wanted to receive that additional education as well. I think it all comes from a good place. I think everyone wants to know as much as they can possibly know. But I can hear everyone's point. I see how Nancy's saying some people are intimidated. I personally would not have a problem sitting next to the mayor and having a conversation one-on-one with someone else, asking whatever I need to ask, and I wouldn't feel like it would change how I act or what I say. But that's not the case for everybody in every committee, so I could see how the council being strong and in their presence might supersede or override the conversations and discussions, or maybe be at a knowledge-based level that's so much over where the committees are that
the
we've,
community.
you know, kind of like we're doing calculus and we haven't learned algebra yet. So, and when you put those two together, you might have a problem. So I can see all sides. I mean,
I
just
can
my 2
understand.
cents.
We've been in operation for a while, and we've made very few recommendations to the council.
Well, maybe we can ask for direction from council to say that, do they want us to ask for permission on everything? Or do they want to give us some flexibility? I think the purpose of having two council members here is so that you at least know two of us
Right.
are comfortable with the way the committee's moving forward. And maybe the other three are not, and we can find that out when, you know, I will address that in the
I
next
think
council
that's
meeting.
important, because, you know, putting on a political hat, you create this committee, you expect recommendation from them. There's expectations there, and then all of a sudden you hear in a report that, well, they're meeting with these people. Well, they didn't ask us if they did. I don't know. It could be
Yeah.
one of those types. Who knows what goes through people's minds? But anyway, it could, I'm not making it, you know.
Well, I think part of the SCO checklist was to ensure that we're recommending to council, but we're supposed to be monitoring and having independent discussions with employees, with educators or consultants, separate and independent. We're supposed to be a governing point or a checkpoint or a monitor, not necessarily appeasing what council wants, but monitoring so that we don't have the issues that we've had before happen in the past. We shouldn't be railroaded and say, well, oh, can we please, you know what I mean?
You're right, but
Yeah.
in reality, we are a political entity.
Right.
We were created by the council, so we're not an independent investigative agency out there, you know.
Poor Lloyd, he's by himself here. We're sorry.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all on the same page, but I want to add one last thing. There is a side benefit to this, because our next meeting would be the 7th of November. And so we could plan for that being the next meeting, but the side benefit I see is we have a new city manager who's coming in, who has not dealt with CFDs, California-style CFDs, and it would give him an opportunity to be a part of
To see
our
it too.
workshop and any other future workshop, and it'd give him a chance, his first week here, which we're already loading him up with a lot of stuff. the
I
first
bet.
week, it gave him a chance to listen and ask the questions and become more informed, and sort of get a feel for how we react and how the community, if they come in to talk, how they react. So I think there's a side benefit to not doing it tonight, is that, you know, he could come in and be a part of it.
I think my biggest gripe is that we were not informed.
Yeah,
And that's the biggest issue, is that we didn't know, and that's not fair.
no, I agree.
That's
I
not
agree.
fair.
And I, of course, I have to take some responsibility, because I knew, and I was on finance committee, and I didn't, as a finance committee member, I didn't know. So, I apologize, and I won't let that happen again.
Yeah,
And we have a second. You just need to
There you
vote.
go. Yeah.
Mr. Halliwell?
Since we diverted and deviated from voting on the motion, I'd like to say one thing before it's forgotten. And that is, I don't think that we necessarily have to ask city council for permission when we've already got so much on our plate already to do with what we've been instructed. So I think that, you know, advice and consent and recommendation would be, as we progress, that if we feel that we need further guidance, we would ask for that guidance. But we've got enough on our plate right now with the guidance that's been given to us, if we try to finish everything that's been given to us, the biggest one is the CFD. But we're also supposed to be talking about the other issues that involve financing. So can we vote and move on?
I agree.
We did, yeah, we did have a vote, and we did have a second.
Mr. Halliwell?
Yes.
Elaine? Yes.
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 We're not omitting anyone from attendance in the seating area if council wants to come,
We
or the
can't, we
economic.
couldn't if we wanted to.
Okay, good.
And
I just
don't
want to make sure we're not saying it's just for us. Okay.
No,
Okay.
and the idea was that we didn't want to go out and promote it so that we'd have to move it to a bigger venue. But we're not going to hide from it,
Right.
and we're just not going to go out. We'll promote the whatever we do afterwards, when we're ready to educate the community, more informed ourselves. That's my goal.
So should we, when we get to the next meeting discussion, discuss potential dates for this?
No, I think we should
He
shoot
said the
for our
7th,
next
right?
meeting and see
Okay.
if you guys can make that happen. You won't be here? Just that one day?
Oh,
Does, we don't, we can't meet this
Tuesday is a planning commission,
yes.
so,
Remember that at council, I believe, they asked for our finance and our first Monday of the month. They're going to do a workshop and
oh, that's true. We
Yeah,
have
so we're
some,
not-
council's got something on the
we're
7th
not
already.
meeting the 7th.
Okay.
We gave away,
That's right.
I was going to mention that when we got to the next meeting discussion, but we gave away our date because council needed it. So we would have to set a different date for ours anyways.
The 14th would be the following
Given day.
Monday. That would be in between. Are you going to meet on the 8th, Election Day, council?
I believe so. No, our council meeting's the 1st.
Oh, that's right.
The 1st and the
That's the 1st and
15th.
the 15th.
Yeah.
The
So no,
7th was designated for the workshop.
follow up to the pipe, to the
Yes,
the
right.
sewer treatment plant.
Mhm.
Why can't it the planning commission? Second.
Will they hold the planning commission meeting on the 8th, election day? That wouldn't stop planning commission, would it?
They could, it's up to them, they can meet if they want, but they don't have to.
Okay. So what if we shoot for the following Monday, the 14th?
On the 14th?
Does that
So-
work for everyone?
Yes.
Gives us more time to see if we can line the consultants up.
The city manager might appreciate a little more lead time for it too.
So again, we're thinking Webb and Associates and Michael Bush if possible.
We have both of them.
Okay.
If you want Brian Forbath, we could even have him.
Oh, yeah.
It's up to you, I mean, we'll have whoever, we'll have whatever.
I think we need Brian there if we can. Brian, by the way, is our municipal financing attorney. So he's going to know the law about CFD. Yeah, yeah.
Be good.
I am intrigued with one of the discussions that took place recently, that supposedly a developer in this community is offering houses with or without Melrose.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we have the other issue with the sewer. Maybe we need to add an agenda item on our agenda that allows us to sort of give, I don't think there's a council meeting update. And I think, we go to the council and we have a finance committee update in council. It would be helpful if coming back to council, we could have a council update and then we could put some items on there and then we could talk about it. But yeah, I'll explain that to you.
Can we assign that to council members that are in the Finance and Audit Committee too?
Well, you guys were doing that for a while.
Yeah, I just think we need to actually
All right,
probably have an
we will do
official
that.
item, yeah.
All right.
So, Part E has suggested, and they're gonna see if they can make it work, to offer homes with or without a CFD. And that means that you will be given two prices. You'll be given a price of a home with a CFD and a price of a home without a CFD. And I think that's great because it gives everyone an opportunity. Number one, it gives everyone a chance, but number two, what happened to me, Mr. Beneke, and probably most other people here, is when I'm sitting down and they say, well, do you want to pay $430 or do you want to pay $400? I'll say, well, why is there a difference? And then they're going to tell me, well, $430 means no CFD, $400 means a CFD. Well, what's a CFD? I think it forces that conversation. We may find that 95% of the people buy the home without a CFD, which I find that unlikely. And we may find that 95% of the people buy a home with a CFD. But either way, we're giving them an option. And I think that'll be, I don't think any other community is doing anything, any other builder is doing anything like that. And so that was Pardee's, we talked about it in a council meeting 2 years ago. I said, why don't you offer them both ways? And they said, well, we could. And then they brought it up recently after everything's fallen apart. They said, you know what, we can look at this and we might be able to do it. There's a lot of legal issues involved, financial issues, whether or not, they were telling me, again, I'm not an expert, but they were telling me that they might have to be the bondholder in order to make this happen. And they have to consider what if everyone says, I want to buy a home without a CFD, and they've already planned to issue bonds. I mean, there's a lot of things they need to work out. The last I heard, which is recently, in the last day or two, is they're still moving forward and going to try to offer that. So I think it'll be a huge step in reforming CFD. And I think if they do that, RD does that, I can't see another developer coming in and not doing that. Because whose home would you buy? I would go to the developers offering it to me with or without. So anyways, does that answer your question?
I just was trying to make sure that came up as a part of the discussion.
Sure.
When we have the CFD discussion.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
With that, we could move to finance staff update. No, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm still operating under Diana's not here. I apologize.
That's okay. I was
See, we give her the gavel once.
I didn't know where we were at.
Can't pry it out of her hands.
Okay, so now number 4, finance staff update, correct? Software progress, training and reporting, reconciliation update, SCO items, new software.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Our software, we have had our first set of trainings for all of the setup, all the different things that we will have access to as far as how people are set up, what kind of controls that will be in place, where we're going to have authorizations required, not required, different levels, who's going to have viewing ability, who will have actual entry ability, and everyone who will have the capability to pull reports from the system. So we're getting that set up. I was charged with getting that all determined this month so that we can get it all in the system, and then we start actual training on how to use the software in November. Then it will go through a test again, and the second week of December, we'll have the consultants back out here, and we will go live on the new software. Not everything will be integrated yet, but it's the first step, and they've already put certain things together so that a lot of things that we're doing twice and 3 times now, we won't have to do any longer, and we'll actually have some good segregation and the ability to check rather than re-enter the data. So the software is moving forward, and it's very exciting. We are going to have the ability to do purchase orders electronically, requisitioning. So staff at the different departments can start a requisition. The requisition will go to the department head. The department head will either say yes or no. Then, depending on the dollar amount level, it would go to the city manager. If it's high enough, it can't be processed until it gets signed off by city council, which we've determined will be done by our deputy city clerk only after it's been discussed and approved in city council, because then she would have the minutes that would support it. So then she would do the actual click approving requisition so they can move forward. So we'll have everything in place. Things won't be able to just go through, and I'll be able to know at an immediate moment whether or not we've gone over budget on a purchase order, or if we are under budget on a purchase order, or if we've run out of time on a purchase order. We'll be able to manage those things. Everything is done manually now. It's difficult to keep track. So there's a ton of wonderful things coming up starting in December, making our life much easier. Reconciliation update. We are still working on a lot of large reconciliations all at the same time. So it's hard to get to the end of any of them because we're working on all of them at the same time. But we're working on mitigation. We've today made a determination to do a little bit of maneuvering on the information to see if we can speed up the process to get that done faster. We have to find a way to reconcile the mitigation in such a way that we know how much money is available for road and bridge versus the fire station construction versus the recycled water program versus traffic signals versus all that. And everything was commingled. So we're having to go back, starting with the planning department, spread it all out, get it all summarized, compare it then to the accounting records. Did this one really get paid? Did it not get paid? Get canceled? Is this a duplicate? And figure it all out. So that one is quite large. We have 23 different mitigation fees to pull apart. So we have that one ongoing. The CFDs as well. We have the reconciliation that was done by Urban Futures, which was a terrific start, but that's just a ledger, basically, of the activity in the trustee accounts. And there's a great deal of money that's in the pooled cash account that is a part of the CFD fund. Because it's pooled cash, it's $1 amount. And again, now I'm trying to maneuver the information in a way to find out how much of that pooled money belongs to 2007, belongs to 2008, belongs to 2009A, to 2011C. So going through that, it's tedious and time consuming because again, it's all put together in one place. So they're just very large projects. And there's not that many of us working on it, but we're plugging away at it every day. And every day I say, we're almost there until we get a little further and we're really not almost there. Okay, and we just keep going. So it is time consuming and we are still working on them, I promise. I'm hoping to have them done sooner rather than later, but it is tedious and time consuming. The SEO report. And I know you've been working on the checklist, and quite a bit of it is in the checklist format for us to start filling out, and we have some notations. But the new software is going to address a lot of the concerns with approval, oversight, segregation of duties, tracking, reporting, all of those different things. So what I'd like the committee to do is with those checklists, if we can maybe have generalized answers until we get the new software actually live and running to where we can say, this is perfect for this. Now that we know how it's going to operate, or we can tweak some of our processes, then we can make it fit better in the checklist. I just don't want to do a lot of work now and then do it again in December. And we're already in the middle of October, so we're almost there. But I'd like to have it all come together at once, and that would help a little bit and give me more time to keep working on these reconciliations. So we are trying very desperately to get everything done. The bank reconciliations, we're working on June's at this point. Again, also completely manual process and quite time consuming. The new program, when it's up and running, it will be automated. I'm very excited for that too. There's a lot coming, so that is my staff update. If you have any questions or suggestions.
What's the storage, the data storage use for this new software? Is it a cloud-based?
It's a cloud-based.
Have we done any inquiries into the security protecting that?
Yes, it's all, they had, the vendor has given us a security statement. Our IT vendor also has done security checks. We have everything in place to keep all of the data secure.
And then we're always backed up in the cloud. So
Always
we're
backed
fine.
up.
Okay. I just know that was something we weren't doing in the past.
Right, right. So we won't have limitations on the storage itself, and having the backups will be good too. We'll be slowly moving to that. Finance is doing their piece first, and will be cloud-based entirely. Our cash receipting and utility billing a piece of the software will remain where it's not hosted. We have it, and then that will then migrate its way over into the cloud with it, and that's when they'll become completely integrated between the two. So, but we're doing some patches so that we don't have to do as much manual entry. It's going to work well, but the migration is going to take a little while. And then the last piece will be the planning and development side. We'll also have their software, and once it is upgraded to a point where they go cloud, then their piece will automatically plug into ours, and we'll have a seamless set of information.
Now, you said that we go live is in December. You also said that you had notes and things to add as general comments in the checklist as we have it now.
Yes, I have. I mean, I've gone through the checklist that I do have and said, okay, this is where we've already addressed this through another policy, but I'm hoping to get other things further addressed and more refined as we figure out some of the better ways we can use the software. If we can put additional safeguards in there,
Sure.
then I'm.
Where I'm going with this is that if at this time you have some information that could start to fill out the parts of the checklist that are still waiting for that information, and it doesn't take away too much time to do, I think we should start doing that.
I do. I have some of them. One of the findings that I've been working on, or I haven't been working on, it is finding number 8. It's almost entirely on more of an HR function, and we have taken that one very seriously. We've partnered with the outsourced agency we use for our payroll processing, Paychecks. They have an arm that is nothing but human resources and all of the different guidelines that we have to follow, and that's already been started. And we even had a training of all the department heads just this week already, our first one, where we talked about the hour and wage laws and what we need to know when directing our staff or knowing what we need to do with them. So we've already begun taking all of the HR functions seriously. I know that I've forgotten what it's called, but there's a manual for when there's an injury, and that's already been drafted, and it's got initials.
Illness prevention program, which we're required to have.
So
The manual is, like I said, been drafted and is now being reviewed. But the whole HR function,
totally.
and Terry Mendoza's done a good job, Milana's done a good job. It's being built properly from the ground up. There are really a lot of progress has been made in that area and in the finance area over the last several months.
The job descriptions, the responsibilities, the
that's
salary
a lot of what's
steps,
on the list.
all of that.
Appraisals.
Right, their annual reviews, when there's been a counseling, when they let somebody go, when somebody's first hired, all of those considerations have already been fixed.
Are we digitally storing that documentation as well for those things like reviews, councils?
Some is scanned and stored in a drive that has limited access. Not everyone can get into it, which is perfectly fine. It's the way it should be. And I know that it's segregated between things that are more sensitive information versus what we need to know to do payroll. So they're digitally maintained, but in different places, so that we can gain access to the things we need to process payroll ongoing. But some of the other items that are HR functions, we don't have access to that, and we shouldn't. So that's all being well maintained.
Where I was going with this, at my work, we have hundreds of tasks we're working on. And so there may be in there something that we call, it may just say in progress, or a short sentence that working on with new software. We also use triaged or prioritized to say that we've looked at it, we're going to get to it, we're not working on it yet. But I mean, just to start to fill in some, and I'm thinking from what you just explained, one sentence
Right.
of what you're doing.
That's what it says on my paper, actually.
Okay.
Because that's kind of how I went with. That's why I just looked at the first one, which is finding 8, which is mostly HR.
Okay.
So that one, we've got a lot on. Finding 9, that one's harder.
I don't want you to give us an update.
Right,
on
no,
these,
but so what I've done is I've tried to make notes so that I know, yes, we did this already, but I can't give you a completely formal answer on it, but yeah, we did that, that's in place, and this is something we're working towards, and this will get fixed when we do the fiscal 15 audit, when it gets finalized, then we're gonna have this done, and we're gonna have that, so I've got my notes that I'm following, so, yeah.
Milana, I'd be more than happy to help you. I did get your email, but I wasn't able to send it on time, so.
That's
I'll
okay.
turn
It was more just to make sure that I had the
the
most.
same stuff,
It-
yeah.
Right, not that I was going to jump right on that and get
That's
it filled
okay.
out.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know you're really busy, but if you ever, I mean, even in a month, 2 times, give me 15 minutes. I mean, I could check off or at least list progress right now for probably 10 findings just by sitting here and listening to you, and that would alleviate you having to manually go in, and then you could just review the updates of our discussion.
Sure.
It might free up. There's certain things that aren't super serious, you know, that we could list, and that way council and the committee can see the progression of the list. But there actually are a lot of things already input from the original part of the original answers from us that we corrected immediately. Like, for example, the selling permit. I mean, if we just stop doing something, then the violation's gone. And we, or the finding, and we can
Right.
just update, hey, we don't do this anymore, problem solved,
Right,
you know?
right.
So things like that, I'm not breaking any rules, and you and I just confirm that it happened, and then we're done, and that would help her. I know you've got a full plate, so.
That would be great.
Even just 15 minutes.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Hey, let's talk about 5, and we'll talk about finding 5 and then get off the phone. It might help you a little bit.
Sure,
I
we
feel
can do
bad
that.
about your workload. So yeah, and I already know about them, so I'll be more than happy.
Okay.
If you're okay with it.
Absolutely, we can do that, because you're right, a lot of them are just, we don't have that problem anymore. We
'Cause we're
just
not-
don't.
Yeah, we just don't.
Right. Right.
Yep.
And a lot of duplicates still.
There's a lot of duplicates.
Okay.
Is that it?
Okay.
And
TBD.
I just, and you can add to this, Milana, also, one of the things that came up in the new trustee discussion was the improved reporting that we would be getting from Wilmington Trust. And a lot of the state controller's office issues were related to bond tracking and reporting. So in addition to the software that you're implementing here in the city, the changeover from trustee will also address a lot of the state controller's office issues that are in that checklist.
Yes, because
So-
I'll be able to download the information into an Excel workbook, move it around a little bit, and import it directly into the accounting software. It's the odd things that make me very happy, and that is one of them, so.
Yeah, I'd like to add on also on the mitigations. You did excellent job. That's the thing that you segregating everything in there. That's good.
Yes.
That's
And,
great.
I mean, it's just that
I
for
know.
years,
When
it's
I saw
all
that,
mushed into one place. It's really tough. Yeah,
Good job.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
With respect to the next item on the agenda,
Next meeting date, discussion?
We said the 14th, yeah?
Yes.
but the thing is that we've set
As long
some
as
of
we
the
can
things that we're
answer
going
it,
to
yeah.
do at that meeting already. One is to try and have the update. But have we formally, through us and the city council, decided who's going to do the next audit for the city?
Nancy, you want to give us an update?
Sure.
We asked,
We did ask, and Milana may want to jump in at any time. We have asked VLF, which is the firm we're currently using. We have asked them to give us a figure for doing the next one. And this is their biggest crunch time, and they have not responded as of yet with what that figure is. We're also crunching on them to do their existing work for us. So we didn't want the number to go up by giving them too much pressure on how fast they got it back to us. So we have given them a little bit, but we are getting concerned about the window going away. And Milan and I have talked about it actually twice in the last week about when we can push a little bit harder on getting that number at the same time when we're asking them to wrap up the work that they're currently doing. So Milana talks with them, and we'll talk with them again tomorrow. So I usually rely on Milana to tell me how much we should be pushing. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Milana.
I do know that with the government entities with June year ends, a lot of them have begun their June 30, 2016 audits. So there's a lot of crunch in the audit world for those ongoing right now. But I have been talking with them each week, trying to get a fiscal 15 audit report. And I've seen bits and pieces of it, and there are things where we've talked about where this goes, where that goes, how should we word that, how should this go. So we've been going back and forth. I expect to talk to them again tomorrow about that. And then I just always just give a little nudge about, we are still concerned, and we do want you to do fiscal 16 if you're willing, if you'll just give us a dollar amount. You don't have to give us a formal letter yet. I haven't pushed for that. So I will delicately broach the subject again tomorrow when I talk to them, when we talk about the fiscal 15 report, which is coming along. It is coming
And
along.
the 14-15 audit will come to the Finance Committee before it goes to council, correct?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we had already always intended, was for us to sort of vet it before council gets it, correct? I do want to talk about this TBD, because I started thinking about some issues here. And Mr. Moore, maybe you might be able to provide some advice and insight here. We're going to make a recommendation to council that we move forward with our meeting on, originally we discussed November 14th. Do we need to can we do a treasurer's report and update from the Finance Committee and move forward without an agenda item on next Tuesday's meeting? Or do we need to put an agenda item on next Tuesday? I mean, we're really not asking council to vote. We're just telling council what we're going to do. And so I don't, my problem is if we have to go through that process and we have to wait till the next meeting to do it, we can't do it Tuesday, then November 14th becomes harder to lock in with the consultants and everything. So I wanted to see what you thought as far as.
Well, I think you could decide to do it whatever way you wanted to. If you wanted to give a treasurer's report saying that this is what you were going to do, I think you could do that. Some of the other, if it's not a separate agenda item, others may want to discuss that and they wouldn't be able to. There are some on the council that would like to discuss this meeting because they would like to attend. I mean, I'm not telling you any. So it's up to you. If you want an agenda item on the 18th, I can put it on there because we're still doing it for tomorrow. Or if you want one on the 1st, we can do that. Or if you just want to give a report that the recommendation of the Finance and Audit Committee is that they have their meeting and they're planning on doing it the 14th, and leave it at that. You could do that. Some of them may say, well, we want to talk about that and want it on the agenda. So I don't know the dynamics, but I think you could do it whatever way you'd like to do it.
What do you think, Nancy? Because you were, and you saw.
I think if we just say we're going to do it, it's going to end up a topic for discussion. I think it's going to end up a bigger issue. So I really don't know what the right thing is to do.
I think the best thing to do is to just go at it again and say we're going to hold our meeting, and,
But as an agenda item, because if it comes up again and we can't talk about it, then someone may make a motion, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. All right, let's
Yeah,
do it
because there
as
was
an
a
agenda
lot of
item.
discussion in that council meeting.
At the
about
end,
everybody
in the
wanting to
middle.
participate along with us, so I think there will be discussion.
Okay, so
might
can
as
we
well
do
Can it
this as
still
a
get on
discussion
the-
item?
Yeah.
For
Do you want me to put
tomorrow?
it, do you want it on the 18th or the 1st?
We need it right away.
On the first.
Yeah.
Tomorrow on put it on the 18th? Okay, it's there.
And I don't think it's not a voting issue, but it's a
Well,
discussion issue.
If it's a separate agenda, if it's agendized,
Someone can make a motion.
somebody could make a motion for a vote. So,
Let's just put it on as a discussion, and we as council members know that we can make a motion.
I'm just going to say, how about this? How about if we title it this way? I'm just trying to walk the line here.
That's why I asked you to come up.
You know, how about if I just say, discussion regarding future Finance and Audit Committee meeting on CFDs? Does that sound, is something to, very close to that? Is everybody okay with that? Because,
Well, is the discussion considered permission? Is that really what it will become?
you want me to say
I
information?
got a better idea. How about discussion about recommendation from Finance Committee to move forward?
Okay, let me,
I would think in light of all the citizens that
Okay,
came to that council meeting and the things that they said about CFDs, that we would want to get a move on, you know?
Well, and I think too that you can kind of, our voice, what we've discussed tonight, that says, we don't want to have to ask permission every time
Yeah.
we need this,
Right.
right? So you can carry that discussion tomorrow.
And we're not omitting anyone from attendance
No.
at all.
No, but caution here. This caught fire last time, and it was just part of a report.
Yeah,
If you put it on the agenda as a recommendation, in my mind, I would be looking at it as a recommendation, which I could either approve or disapprove.
right.
Okay? So there needs to be a way to not make it a report, not make it a recommendation. But I think maybe what you said about
An update.
But I think maybe if there's a way we can include in this discussion item, clarification.
about-
Finance Committee asking for clarification on when we have to ask for,
Why don't we do an invitation to council that they can attend our meeting?
Yeah.
Specifically.
Let's do it that way.
really think that's gonna change. No, but
Well-
I think I would like to have that discussion that you brought up, which is, okay, so how much latitude are you giving Finance Committee?
Yeah.
So
Right, yeah,
maybe,
we're kind of assuming that you and Mike are speaking for council when you come, and then when you go back, and then
No,
now
he
they
did.
wanna
Lloyd
change
did.
it.
He, at
Yeah.
the meeting, he was
Yeah,
trying to
Mike,
get
go
it
for it.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. It just got shot down.
yeah.
You know, numbers.
Well, I think you could put it on the agenda as a recommendation, and then our council members on this committee can explain why it's coming as a recommendation. The committee was kind of put up,
Not kind of.
how do I put this daintily? The committee was concerned that according to their charter, they have certain latitudes, and we need to, and we're moving forward, and we're recommending, and we want to do this, we need more knowledge and information to be able to do our function. I think you could sell it. You should be able to sell it.
But I think you have a couple of dynamics taking place here. And one of those is, depending on how you schedule the meeting, if you're trying to have it for the Finance and Audit Committee to do their work, then the public comment has to come before that discussion starts. And then the other is, if all the city council shows up, that becomes a very ticklish thing in the sense that I know that Della has shown up and we've had 2 council members here, but she's made a very pointed point of not saying anything,
Which she's not allowed to.
which she's not allowed to. So you have the fact of how much the council can actually participate in a meeting and have it perceived that they're not carrying on business.
But everyone on council has taken our ethics training, and we understand we cannot participate.
I
at
understand
all.
that.
So,
And that's why they wanted to have a joint meeting, because they wanted to be able to ask
participate.
questions.
Right.
So that was the whole thing
that was.
snowballed into this becoming this major
the whole-
collective meeting that we were going to have. on
Then we're
this.
looking at the issue of them overriding the meeting,
Correct.
and then us having to be quiet because they have a larger voice. So,
My problem too is with council, you now have rules that come in, like how long you can speak, and we
It
just
gets a
wanted
lot
to-
more formal.
Yeah, we wanted the
Yeah.
free flow conversation. And as you said, I think we let the public speak before, but I think the most beneficial workshops I've been to is when we let the public come back up without having to fill out a slip, just come back up, and after they've seen the presentation and the discussion and the dialogue, then the community can come back up and say, well, I have a question about what you said, and I have, give it more of that feel. I just think with 9 of us asking the questions versus 14 and maybe 20 of us asking the questions. that
All
it-
I know is that, if you look at it with pros and you look at it with cons, the pros for doing it all of the way that we've discussed is quite long. The only con is that council in that meeting is not going to be able to
directly
be
ask
part of
questions.
it. And we're talking about a section of council that could sit in the audience, could write down their questions, and could get them answered later. So when you look at how sort of minuscule that con becomes, it becomes pretty small.
We still have the mayor and the mayor
Right,
pro
but
tem
you know what?
present
I
in
think
the
all of this is
meeting,
moot
too,
if
yeah.
we answer Diana's question. And Diana's question is, how much latitude are you going to give the finance committee? So
We do
maybe
have the right to be acknowledged. We have the right. And they've taken that away from us
So
tonight. They
maybe
took
the
it away.
agenda item should be,
I don't want
review finance committee
review the ordinance, yeah, and the
And
SEO.
determine if finance committee is within their rights to schedule their own workshops. How's that?
Okay.
I'm like Obama, I got a pen and a phone, and even though I'm a Republican, so I've got it right here. You tell me what the agenda item is gonna be, because I wanna get this right,
Review or discuss,
Discuss,
review and discuss
finance and
audit
okay, wait a minute,
duties and responsibilities.
Yeah, well, yeah, you want to get specific, ordinance 1062, chapter 2.35. You want to get really,
Chapter 2.3.
35.
We can pull all the data on the ordinance.
Have it
and
right
we can
here.
send
well,
it
what we'll
over.
do is, we'll write a short staff report, we'll
Mad.
attach the ordinance, and then, I'll say that the Audit Finance Committee requests that this item be on the agenda. And it's gonna say, review and discuss Finance and Audit Committee duties and responsibilities. That's what it's gonna say.
I just
Everybody
think
okay
not
with
just
that?
the ordinance, though, the SEO has clear guidelines in there also of what they expect.
Yeah.
The whole reason for creating the ordinance, some of those pieces are missing out of the ordinance that are actually coming out of the Secretary of State's mouth.
But I think we can
Or
have that
the
as part
security, I'm
of the discussion.
sorry.
And my thought here is that if they say, no, you have the, I will point blank ask them, does the finance committee have the authority to schedule workshops for the finance committee without approval from council?
And if they say no, then we
then I'll
have
say,
to
okay,
visit the.
let's discuss approval for the workshop.
There you go.
And that way, we don't even have to mention a workshop unless they say to our question, no.
I would
Finance
say if
committee-
they say no, I would challenge, are we violating the ordinance?
Oh, I
then?
plan to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying, if you say
Well,
no,
because
then
we
are we
are.
breaking the rules of what?
Yeah.
We all just want to fulfill what we're supposed to be doing, yeah.
I think in order to keep it moving, you need to add that additional part to the meeting agenda item, giving an example of what we're concerned with. Because it puts it right out there in the front. It isn't that you take and bring it up and then someone has to ask, what are they talking about? I think you need to take and put the example out there up front. And then that way it keeps going, because you're going to be going to these consultants and you're trying to have a date certain that they'll be able to be at a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for
You're gonna have a-
example, we
you're
have
gonna
a
have
meeting
to
scheduled
have-
for the 14th.
Yeah.
You're going to have some action taken, because, as was pointed out by you earlier in the meeting, these people are not going to show up for free. So someone has to authorize that this meeting actually take place in order so that Melania can end up paying that bill.
Okay. And that may be what council comes back and says, well, if the workshop doesn't cost us anything, go for it.
And if they say it's going
If it's
And
gonna
it
cost
does,
you
it
money,
is
then
gonna
cost you more
cost-
than general staff time, then we want to get approval on it.
It may
So
be that
maybe you
way,
can
yeah.
put that in as an example, or for example, or finance committee has a workshop scheduled with the CFD experts for the 14th, or would like to schedule.
I think that you are going to have to probably figure out too what the estimated cost is. Because
Yeah.
that may come up as a secondary question.
Sure it will.
The estimated cost, we can figure that out. It's probably. Yeah.
It'd be a nominal fee.
Well, you don't have to commit to it now. but
Well, I'm
saying-
just guessing. I would imagine getting them here and, you know, it's $1,500, $2,000, $2,500. It's gonna be in that range.
Oh, okay.
I mean, for a meeting, there's,
Okay.
you know, which,
We're worth it.
no, actually, you're worth more.
Thank you.
Oh, doesn't that make you feel good?
Thank you.
One person you were talking to inviting, their fee would be $2,000 by
Yeah,
the
your
time you
bond
get their
counsel.
expenses.
Should we not invite Brian?
He's pretty expensive.
He is. He is.
He's
Maybe he
$5
could
and a
call
quarter,
in.
$5.75 an hour.
Yeah, we still have to pay if he calls in.
Oh, yeah, that's,
Well, you should definitely have Richard Wall there.
yeah.
You can
And
have
the
him there
question
first
is
for 10
if you
minutes
get
and
into
then-
more of the legal stuff, you know, are you gonna wanna to have somebody explain more in detail what the law is?
So
So-
why don't we do this? Why don't we ask Richard Wall, he's Webb and Associates, and Michael Bush, who's very knowledgeable on
Right.
CFDs, he does a lot of that.
Absolutely.
And if we have legal questions, we'll submit them into writing to
Yeah.
Brian after
And he
the,
can come
right, he
after.
can respond to us in writing.
Bush, okay, Bush and
And
Wall.
Well,
And then what, you know what we should do, Milana, is why don't we tomorrow just call them, make sure that we have them hold that date.
Yes.
Well, as soon as the meeting's over, I'll send them an email
Right,
like I did last
okay.
time.
Because what we want to do is hold the date, so regardless of what it is, you know, so we'll go ahead and take care of that. And, okay,
So we just dropped the cost in half, probably.
yay. We love saving money.
Argument for the council to want a joint meeting.
Correct.
Well, it will be.
You get a bit better bang for your buck.
But my
But we
argument is you
can
don't.
offset it with
We'll
all
leave
of our
that.
volunteer time to offset that
Yeah.
cost.
Okay.
But the other thing is that if for some reason they can't be here on the 14th, we'll know that answer by the time the city council meets.
Correct.
or what we could even have by then too is, let's say they can't do it the 14th, we can check alternative dates. Maybe it's the 15th.
Yes.
Right.
Or maybe it's the 15th and the 16th, or something like that.
Right.
But, you know, we can work out the date.
That's how it worked last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so let it be written, so let it be done.
Are we done?
That's it.
So that's it,
Adjournment.
because our next meeting has already been determined to be November 14th, 6 PM, with the possibility of a change. Okay,
I'm okay.
all right, so we're going to adjourn the standing financial.
Wait,
Oh,
you know,
oh,
discussion here just came up with a question. I don't want to, I have 2 minutes discussion on this.
Right.
If council pushes for a joint committee,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to make a recommendation that it's held after the election. Because I think a lot of what happened in that last meeting would never have happened if we were in the middle of a campaign.
Oh, good point.
And after the election, we then have a new council, whoever that council is, and we have a new city manager. So that will be my push, is let's not do it November 14th. If council wants a joint committee, let's do it with the new council. And that would be that would be in December. I know it's pushing it back,
I know.
but I think that if you take the politics out of it, you might get a different decision.
yeah, we probably, we will.
Yeah, just my
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay.
I second that.
That's a good point.
Okay. Now that's it, right?
Yep.
Okay, we can adjourn,
Are you
right?
gaveling it? 6.
Okay, so we are adjourning at 7:26, I believe.